basically. Yeah.
Those are for those
Those are
ones
the
that
ones
live
in
in the
the
snowy
Alps.
areas. Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones in the
It's
Alps.
like the Yetis.
So what about Bigfoot? Tell us something about Bigfoot.
He's blurry.
It is
He
blue.
is blurry.
Now he is.
His feet like a hobbit? What's taller? 4'11". And size 18.
Okay, I tell you what here, we have mostly ghost people on this panel. So let's take turns pairing like one of the spookiest things you've ever seen on an investigation. That way we're not going really long, and everybody can have a chance to talk a little bit in the microphones, and he can have time to work with the settings. So, Ken, go first.
Spookiest thing, huh?
Yeah, someone freaked you out, or keep it short.
Yeah, I was completely startled. One of the first investigations I ever went on Lent Mansion, we're in the basement, and I knew everything about ghosts. It was my first investigation, so two of us were down there talking about ghosts, and I said, "This is what I know. This is what I think I know," and the person I was with left the room, and I'm taking photos, and next thing I know, I'm taking photos of different things in the room, and when I got here and clicked the button, a skull appeared between my camera and my eyeballs. I froze. I mean, completely froze. Only thing that could work was my mouth, and I yelled, "Holy, fill in the blank." You name it, I said it for about 5 minutes at the top of my lungs. And my friend came running around the corner. "What the hell are you talking? You're gonna wake everybody up around here." And I said, "Get out of my way." I just said, "Get out of my way." And I left the room. And we had made an agreement that if anything did happen, that we were going to go back and try again. Recreate it or whatever. But I had to get the adrenaline down. It took 15 minutes to calm down. So, checked it out a couple weeks later, talking to some friends who had investigated there, and they said, "Well, they didn't harm you. They were just trying to show you that you didn't know anything about ghosts. And look what we can do." So it was a eye-opening experience.
I was sitting on the edge of the bed, looking into a mirror, and behind me, I saw something raise up out of the bed, and then rock back and forth as it's scooching up towards me. I could feel the coldness on my back, and I could see it getting closer, but I didn't move. And then just as I thought it was going to touch me, it disappeared. And then a couple of seconds later, I see it again raise up out of the bed behind me, and I'm watching it in the mirror scooch closer until it gets right up to my back, and I feel the cold, and I just knew it was going to get me. And then I quit.
I'm weird that I don't get scared, but I have been intimidated before. And same investigation, I'll be talking about it tomorrow. There was a kind of like a squid-like, spider-like type creature that was hanging out on the ceiling. And what it would do is it would very rapidly approach the team, and come up to the doorway where we were at, and just skitter about, and then draw back. So I think that's the most scary thing I've ever seen on the investigation. What about you, ma'am? Correct.
We're going to tell a story.
Yeah, tell us what.
Close your eyes and just tell a story.
Yeah, correct. What's that? What would you see it?
Everywhere.
Everyone have a house or?
Okay?
Okay, Bill, I know you're not an investigator, but I know you've got a couple of scary stories. Of
Yeah. One that really comes to mind right now is, I'll keep it kind of PG for her, but when I was a kid, I don't know, I was probably 10-ish. My grandparents from down Hot Springs came up to visit, and it was around Christmas time, so me being the youngest, I got the full couch duty while the grandparents got to bed and all that good stuff. But I was sitting there, I don't know what time it was. I'm guessing 2, 3 in the morning. I woke up and I saw this lady standing there, full body, wearing horn rimmed glasses, like you saw in the early 1900s. And honestly, it looked just like my great grandmother. And she was standing there just staring at me. And it freaked me out, being 10 years old. I see this, it wasn't 5 foot from me, just standing there looking at me. That whole house was such an old house that we had all sorts of experiences, growing up there. Chairs would rock by themselves, pictures would float out, fall on the ground, doors would open and close. You hear footsteps at night, but nothing malevolent. Nothing bad ever happened. Trying to think of something else. One I want to tell, I don't want to tell it because she's right here. You know what I'm talking about?
You want me to cover your?
Yeah. No, you don't want to hear it. But no, I had another experience. I was in the military. I was down in Jacksonville, Florida, and my grandmother had been sick with cancer, and I got a call from my brother saying that it wouldn't be long before she passed. And this was like a Friday evening, and later that night, it was like 3 in the morning. I woke up and she was standing at the foot of my bed, and I knew she'd passed. Then about 6 the next morning, the duty officer comes knocking on my door, and he's like, "Are you the next Corporal Knight?" "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Well, I want to inform you that your grandmother passed away about 3 o'clock this morning." I was like, "I know." So it's kind of crazy how far away, she was up by Cherryville, how far away and how fast that happens. You guys good?
Mine started at 6 years old. I lived in a house that was haunted. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to a noise in my bedroom door. I woke up to a Civil War soldier, full-bodied apparition, just standing in my doorway looking at me. And I was one of those kids that put the blanket over your head. It's not real. It'll go away. Got the curiosity again to look up, and sure enough, it was gone. But the dog would dig at the wall all hours of the night and growl. Things would move around the house. My dad would wake up and the heat be turned down in his house. He'd think us kids were playing with it. I was only 6. My sister was 4. We woke up one morning and the car was running outside. Now, this is late 80s, before auto start even was invented. And toilets would flush at night, lights would turn on and off. One night we were at my grandparents' house for dinner. My dad comes home from work, calls my grandparents and said, "Hey, did you leave the water running in the house?" My mom says no. We go back to the house and the whole upstairs was flooded. Someone had turned the tub on and had a lamp inside the bedroom on the floor running, and the water is running into the bedroom. They went upstairs another day, and my mom had folded my laundry, set it on my bed. They go upstairs, and my dresser is flipped over in my bedroom, clothes strung everywhere. Just say we lived in that house for maybe 2 more months, and then we ended up moving out. People would stay in this house. They would live there maybe about 2 weeks and move out. Well, owners had bought it from New York City, and they remodeled the house, and they opened up this wall and attic, and they ended up finding uniforms of Civil War soldiers, money, bayonets, maps. So come to find out, it used to be a Civil War base and hospital. And that was kind of my scary experience at 6 years old.
I'm not an investigator by any means, but I do have a story. I was working at FedEx last year around this time, and it was about late August, early September. And so the route that I ran was Nowata, which is about an hour away from Independence, right? And so, hour there, do the stops, hour back. However, it was nearing peak season. We had an unusually high off season, so we had more packages than normal. So I'm out one night, and this has been, I've been on the road or not on the road, but I've been working these long 10, 12-hour shifts of just nothing but driving rough packages. Well, the way that I ran my route was I would do in town first, because that was the quickest at the time, and then I would go out and do my county, which took the longest, about 3 or 4 hours. But I had so many packages in town that day that I didn't get started on my my county route until about 5 o'clock in the evening, 5:30. But when I got to my county route, I would start with west Nowata, then move down to south and make almost a U shape coming back up the highway. But I was at a little town just east of Nowata. I can't remember what it's called. I don't even know if it's a dot on the map. It was so small. However, it's little county town, kind of like Jefferson, up near Independence. And so I'm there, I'm on the roads and everything, and then I take they call it a cemetery road, mainly just because there's a cemetery on it, nothing really else. But I took there's a T intersection, I took a left, headed down for a couple of miles until, did my last delivery. On my way back, it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I had another hour drive home, but about 9:30, 10 o'clock, it's pretty dark. But as I'm passing the cemetery, I'm not even thinking, I was ready to just go home. And so as I'm passing the cemetery on Cemetery Road, and I mean, it's an old cemetery. It's not, I don't think it's even active anymore. There were no new headstones, nothing, in the cemetery at the time. But, I'm doing 40 down this county road next to this old cemetery, and all of a sudden, the cemetery's on the left side of the road, headed east, and then, just tree line on the right side. And I'm the only one on the road. I didn't see anybody coming when I was going to my last stop, and I didn't see anybody coming down the road to the T intersection. And just in my headlights, just a black figure just walks out in front, and I hear a pretty loud thump, like I hit like a fox or a deer or something like that. But it was in the shape, the figure of a human, and so I slammed on my brakes and I, skid across the gravel, and I'm just sitting there for a second thinking, oh my gosh, I just killed somebody. And so I quickly hop out. I look underneath the truck, because I mean, you're driving, I think everybody's seen a FedEx truck. They're pretty sizable, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I look underneath the truck, nothing's there. I look, I run around back, and nothing's in the road behind me. I'm looking at my flashlight. I'm looking off at the trees on the other side. And I'm just about to call 911 when I look at the front of my truck, and there's no dent, there's no scratch marks from like hitting anything, nothing. And about that time that I look at the front of my truck, I'm like, what is going on? So at this point, I'm looking at my truck. Graveyard's on the right-hand side. Like, I'm in the middle. I don't want to say in the middle of the graveyard, but I'm like halfway past the graveyard at this point. And it's off to my right, and at the time that I'm looking at my truck, I hear a voice on the right-hand side of the road say, "You're good." And so I quickly look over, and the graveyard had a small wall about as tall as this table is, going around the perimeter. And so I look over, I'm like, who's there? You're like, did you see anything? And I hear nothing. So I run over walk over to the graveyard wall, start looking around the graveyard, and it's completely empty. You know, all the gravestones are, you know, sideways to me, so on the thin side, and so you can see if somebody's hiding. There wasn't anybody hiding. So I look, you know, I go over the wall and look up and down it. I don't see anybody. Craziest part though is I go back, I kind of walk along the graveyard wall where I had initially, you know, quote unquote hit this thing, and you can see like little footsteps in the gravel, kind of look like cowboy boots, kind of going out in the middle, and then you can see my tire marks in the gravel where it stopped, and you know I go over to the tree line and nothing's there, like no sign of anybody being hit there. And then I just get this sense of dread because I feel that sense that like there's just, you know, eyes on you, and I'm like I'm getting out of here. Like I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing there. We're good. I did my looking. I made sure we're all right. So that's probably my scariest experience with the ghost.
I don't really get spooked out by a whole lot on investigations. Most of the spooky stuff I've actually had happen personal experiences, especially in my last apartment. I used to have things come in and out, and I have a few funny stories too about spirits, but probably the most creepy one I can tell you is I used to see things like outside my window just walk by like in the evenings. And so I would close my curtains after that. And most of the time it was like a body. And what I'm talking about, it's not like a full body, you know, colored apparition. It was more like a shadow figure, but it wasn't a full body. However, one time I saw like a woman walk by, but it was like half a woman. It was like half a shadow figure, which was very strange. I've never seen that before. But I decided, you know, it's probably time to close your curtains. Anyway.
That's crazy. So how are we doing on the sound? What do you think?
Adrian? Yes, how's this? Hello?
Did it?
Yeah.
Hi. I'm a little close to that one, so not to work. Is that good?
Yeah?
It's not great, but it's a lot better than last year.
Are we good?
Yeah, tips.
Yeah.
Go get us that. I think it sounds pretty
I got
good.
Chris by 5,000.
You take credit cards?
Yeah.
We do.
But
We
the
do
swipe,
take
the
it.
swiper is very strange.
Well, we know we are today.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well then, I think we're pretty much done for the night. You guys are welcome to hang out for a little bit. We're probably gonna start breaking down the kitchen area a little bit, get the food packed away and stuff. You are welcome to stay and work with your vending stuff and hang out and chit chat. I know I'm probably gonna be going home pretty soon because I am tore up. And I have to be back here at 6 in the morning. Make sure you get here at least by 8 so we can get everything that we need to get done. The check-in table for the speakers this year is at the front. It's going to be right to your right when you walk in the door. That's where your lanyards are going to be, where the bracelets are going to be for anybody that you've brought who's not going to be a speaker, like family or friends or just team members that aren't speaking. And we've got something new going on this year. We had 2 full-size posters printed out of this year's flyer of the full poster. And there's a table set out there, and they will direct you to it to sign both posters. And then we're going to raffle off one of them, and the other one we'll keep and frame. And those will start coming back every year for Paracon, so we can display those. So, and if you want to put your name in for the raffle, you totally can. It'll be all completely signed by all of us by the end of the night. We'll raffle that off. I think it'll be really, really fun. And if you want to, if you're bored, go out to the hallway and sign it now. And you can put your team's name on there too. So,
You said be here at 8.
yes,
When did the doors open up?
the doors open at 9.
I don't know, because nobody ever told me, and I got an email.
You deserve that. Thank you, Tina. I'm too tired to come across this room right now. Yeah. Yeah, he'll walk by me later on, then I'll get in.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead and sign in.